Hi, I'm Mason Dugacek, and welcome to our show, Build a Tribe Live, where I have the privilege of interviewing established experts, recognized authorities, and up-and-comers willing to share their unique and interesting perspectives on business. My goal is to help share ideas that can help you and other viewers attract, capture, and convert more of your ideal prospects into customers online. And today's guest is Tom Ruwich, who is a Yale graduate and president of the St. Louis-based email marketing company, MarketVolt. I invited Tom to come in today to share his ideas about how to basically re-engage inactive past clients, to reach out to potential clients, and turn those potential clients into customers quickly, easily, and inexpensively utilizing email marketing. So, Tom, basically, what I'd like to do is, I've got a very simple format. It's about 10 questions and maybe a few follow-ups related. But if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this line of work and what it is that drives you to be passionate about the whole niche of email marketing.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
My background was as a journalist. I worked for about 10 years in the newspaper industry. And in the late 90s, as the internet was beginning to take hold, I got into the online newspaper business. And that business, of course, uses the passive advertising model. Capture an audience, plop ads on the pages of the newspaper, hope that enough people respond to the ads that the advertisers find return on that investment. But what began to fascinate me as the internet took hold is the opportunity for interactive advertising, where buyers and sellers could connect in a much more of a dialogue, and media like email was at the forefront of that movement. So around the year 2000, I hatched the idea for MarketVolt. We didn't invent email marketing, of course, but we were pretty early into the game, and we jumped in. And what really began to interest us most was this idea that it wasn't just about putting out a message and hoping it sticks. It was about having conversations with your prospective customers, your clients, learning from them based on how they interacted with your email, opening, clicking, and so forth, using that knowledge to instruct your product development, but also to understand who your true prospects are, what your different people's interests are. And we've been doing it now for 12, 13 years and built a successful business and helped a lot of businesses grow as a result.
Well, I appreciate you setting aside time to visit with me. I'm sure our viewers will be able to benefit from some of your experience. Like I said, I've got about 10 basic questions.
Mm-hmm.
I might as well get started.
Let's do it.
Over the last few years, social media has generated a lot of buzz, and businesses seem to overlook email and say email's dead. In your opinion, is email an obsolete technology? Why or why not?
No. It's funny. There are a lot of social media mavens who try to present it as a choice: social media versus email. We see it as just the opposite. We see it as all part of an integrated whole. Social media is terrific on many levels, especially the viral quality of connecting with people who otherwise don't know you. But email is far from dead. In fact, all the data show that in terms of converting sales on the e-commerce level, in terms of separating prospects from suspects and using it to really move people through a sales process, email remains as effective as it was 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and in many ways more so. What I noted before is that the power of email marketing is in engaging those with whom you've already connected. And as you engage, you can begin to move people through the sales funnel, separate prospects from suspects, because when they click, they're interested in whatever it may be. Email is still a very powerful marketing tool.
I agree, and it's just in case people don't use it correctly, those are probably the ones that are
That's right. There are all sorts of mistakes that people make.
Your business is known as an email service provider, or ESP. What is an ESP, and why should businesses use one for email marketing?
Well, an email service provider is what the name implies. It provides the service, really the software, that allows a company to create, deliver, and track emails to large audiences, different than, say, Gmail or Outlook that allows you to type an email, send it to a selected contact.
Right.
This is about sending to a large audience. And why do it with an ESP? Well, taking that third thing, tracking, you're not going to be able to do that easily or at all if you try to do it yourself through your own
What
email
kind of things
software.
do you track? Obviously open rates, what else?
Open rates, who forwarded the email. So imagine in a business-to-business environment how powerful it would be if you send an email into John Doe at Acme Widgets and notice, because of tracking, that he's forwarded it to 10 colleagues within Acme Widgets. Who's the person you're going to call tomorrow to try to set up a sales meeting? John Doe's into whatever it was you sent him. John Doe's identified himself as a prospect. So tracking who opens, who...
Not based on what he says, but what he actually does.
What he does, yeah. Who forwards, who clicks which links. So the real business of sales, to sell efficiently and to get to the sale most quickly, is to have conversations with the low resistant true prospect as opposed to the high resistant person who really doesn't know who you are or want to hear from you.
Gotcha.
Knowing who clicked the link about the new product or service that you're offering gives you an opportunity to say, okay, that person showed enough interest that I'm going to call, or I'm going to send a follow-up email, or I'm going to send a letter, or I'm just going to show up and knock on his door. That person knows who I am, showed interest, separating prospects from
You just happen to
suspects.
call him at the right time. Amazing, huh?
How about that?
What are some of the keys to a successful email marketing campaign in your opinion?
Well, there are many, but creating content that emphasizes value and doesn't just pitch is first and foremost the key thing. What you are doing, whether you're B2B or B2C or small business, large business, for-profit or non-profit, you have some value that you bring to the client or the prospect. And to the extent that your emails demonstrate that value, as opposed to just saying, here's what I do, here's why you should buy, call this number, you will engage your audience, get them to trust and like you. And so when it's time for them to make a buying decision, they are with you. So that's the first thing. Second thing, building on what we talked about with tracking, make sure that your emails give people an opportunity to click.
Okay.
Don't put the whole thing in the email. Don't put the whole story in the email, because then you have no way to know if the person engaged with your content or
Or
not.
at what point, if you have links at different stages of the content, you get an idea how far people are reading and what their attention span is
Precisely.
regarding your product.
Now, you took us to advanced techniques there, but that's what I would expect from you, Mason. But we'll stop there. Those are two key things. Provide great value, give people an opportunity to interact with your content so you can learn from them and interact with them.
Okay. What are some of the mistakes that businesses should try to avoid when conducting email marketing campaigns?
Greatest mistake that businesses make is sending everything to everybody every time, regardless of their interests. So it's perfectly okay to create a monthly or twice monthly newsletter that goes to everybody, because by design that newsletter might have a little bit of everything for everybody. Let's imagine the music store that sells CDs. Send a newsletter on a regular basis to everybody. It has something about rock and roll and blues and jazz and classical. But when it's time to send out a promotion for the big classical music sale, if you send that to every single person on the
like
mailing
rock
list,
or country or whatnot, they're going to be like, hey, these guys don't know me, they're just wasting my time, versus dialing in specifically on your...
90% of the people on the list might have no interest in classical. And the more you send everything to everybody, the more likely you are to send stuff that people don't find relevant, and then they'll tune out. They'll stop opening your emails, they'll click the opt-out button,
Totally see that.
they'll click the spam complaint button. So back to this link tracking concept, if you have a goal to sell more classical music, engage people, the whole list, with a variety of good, engaging, interesting, valuable content, classical, jazz, rock, so forth. And then track over time who keeps clicking through on my link for the classical music article.
That becomes a target.
That becomes segmenting your database against which you can send the targeted promotion Those people welcome your email. Those people not only welcome it, they think, wow, those guys at Acme Music, they really know me. They get me. They keep sending me the stuff that interests me. They're engaged. They buy. Meanwhile, the rock fan is not getting annoyed at you for sending all these classical
It's the difference
promotions.
between using a machete or a scalpel.
You got it.
How do you decide what to include in emails that you send out?
Well, you start again with this principle of value. So you decide, what is it that I really sell? So let's keep going on the music store. The music store, it's not just that they sell CDs or accessories. What they sell is the joy of music, the enjoyment of music. So begin, if you're developing a content strategy, to think, what kind of content can I put out there that perpetuates the enjoyment of music? And it doesn't have to all be about, here's the latest CD we have. So an example for the music store might be, here's how to pick the best car stereos, or here's how to place speakers in your living room to maximize the sound quality. You're not selling speakers, you're not selling car stereos, but the people who are tuned into your list are going to really like that content and look forward to opening the email. Certainly you also want to include stuff about products and reviews and so forth. And this is something you and I have talked about before. Answer the frequently asked questions that you hear from your prospects. What are the questions they're asking? What are the questions they should ask? What are the objections that are raised in the sales process? If you're not speaking to those things, what else should you be talking about? Those are the things your prospects want to know.
I understand how email might work in a B2C business, but how is it different in your opinion when you're talking about B2B?
You hear a lot of people who say, I don't see where email works in B2B. In great part because they think about jumping simply from pressing the send button to making the sale. And it's not that easy. You have to think about email being part of that integrated whole. And if the sale is made with a lunch or a phone call or a face-to-face meeting, what you need to be thinking about email is not, how do I send an email that makes the sale, because emails don't make the sale.
Right.
You have to think about, how do I use email to move me along the sales process and get me closer. So that takes us back to this notion of separating prospects from suspects. If you just start with your Rolodex of contacts, your stack of cards, say, I'm going to make 100 phone calls in hopes of making 3 appointments. Well, you're going to make 100 phone calls and get 3 appointments.
Right.
If you send an email first to those same 100 people, pay attention to who clicks the link, and it may only be 15 people who click the link.
Make those 15 calls.
Make those 15 calls first, and chances are you're going to get to 3 appointments in 15 calls as opposed to 100 calls.
I've heard you discuss the idea of marketing to the maybes. Could you expound on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So much advertising, print advertising, broadcast advertising will essentially say, here's what we do, here's why you should buy, call this number. Local cooking school that trains chefs. I heard a radio ad for them recently, and they offer cooking classes for amateurs on weekends. I like to cook. I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. The ad though said, our next class is cooking for diabetics on Saturday, May 5th. I don't have diabetics in my family. I wasn't free May 5th. No go. I'm a no.
Right.
But really I was a maybe. I was that guy who thought, hey, something you offer, I'm interested. Had they said instead, go to oursite.com tips to download some free tips, or text 12345 to this number to get a free report or a free thing, or enter a contest, or anything that allows the maybe to say, sure, I see the value in that. Short of buying, I'm willing to give you my email address in exchange for something of value. If they had done that, I would be in their communication channel. I would be an active, known, engaged prospect for them. Instead, they simply said, pleased to meet you. In effect, will you marry me?
Right.
And I said, no, I'm not free to get married on May 5th, and I was gone.
Right.
Had they marketed to the maybes and gotten me to raise their hand, it's just a conceptual way of thinking about strategic list building.
Okay.
Your goal in your marketing and advertising is to build that list so that you can engage and ultimately convert.
Okay. How would you describe briefly the difference between permission email marketing and spam?
Sure. The wording permission is the key thing. That the people on your list have given you permission to contact them, and you want to really traffic in that sort of email marketing. The people who have said, I know who you are, I've signed up for that free ebook or that mailing list or whatever it is, and I want to hear from you. Spam is a term that really just means unsolicited commercial email. The idea of going and buying a list.
It's almost like a cold call online for folks that aren't familiar with the terminology.
It is, and the fact that it's so cheap to buy a list, and the fact that it's so cheap to deliver to a large list, it becomes an easy default setting for people. But the reality is that if you're not selling, little blue pills or fake Rolex watches or that sort of thing, your yield on that effort is going to be really, really small.
Probably cause more damage than good with your reputation.
Cause damage to your brand and your reputation. And in the end, good marketing and good business building is about relationship building. So rather than hammer people who don't want to hear from you, focus your energy on building relationships with those who do. The permission-based marketing as opposed to spam.
Okay. One last question.
Sure.
With permission opt-in email campaigns, it can obviously take a while to build a list.
Mm-hmm.
What if I only have a few dozen or a few hundred names? How would you make the case briefly about even bothering with email?
Well, the easy answer to that question is it usually only takes one sale to pay for an email send. So if you have 100 people on your email list, what are the odds that one or two or three will act and buy and or move further through the process?
Better than zero.
Better than zero for sure. And what is one sale worth to you? Right. Or what is one referral, or whatever may be the outcome of that communication?
Use what you got.
Pardon me?
Use what you got.
Use what you got. And we have clients who have had great success having email lists that started in the dozens, and then they grow them. Right. It's not to say that you shouldn't focus on growing your list, but why wait to take advantage of a body of followers when you have them?
Well, Tom, I appreciate you setting aside the time. And for those of you in the audience who would like to know more about email marketing and have specific questions of Tom and his staff about how you can leverage his technology and technologies like it to attract more of your ideal prospects, to reach out to inactive past customers, and really get inexpensive and effective conversions, I'd encourage you to reach out to Tom. Check out his website, marketvolt.com. If you're looking for ways to attract, capture, or convert prospects online using other forms of online social media marketing, I'd encourage you to check out buildatribe.com.